Hi, I'm Greg Dell, joined by attorney Stephen Jessup, and we're going to talk to you about Davies third-party management company. I know, Stephen, they go by Davies, but they're a large company that does a lot of technology in the insurance world, and they service all aspects of the insurance industry. But for our purposes, we really only focus on the services they offer for long-term disability and short-term disability insurance claims. And in this video, we'll talk about our experience in working with them, how they came about in this industry, because they're more on the newer side recently in terms of entering the disability insurance claims management world. So tell us a little bit about what their role is in long-term disability claims, and then we'll get into our experience of dealing with them and the predecessor companies, of which we know some of them they've taken over.
Yeah, so they're a third-party administrator, so they're not the insurance company. So when the insurance company wants to outsource the claims handling of it, you see in a lot of times like older policies, older companies that don't really write as much new business in some cases, but they still have a lot of claims and they still have a lot of policies that are out there. So they handle as a third-party administrator. So instead of submitting all your paperwork information to your direct insurance company, it goes to them, and they're the ones that make a decision as to whether or not benefits are going to get paid.
So that people really understand, a lot of all the insurance companies basically do their own underwriting, and that means when you go to apply for the coverage, you submit your medical information, your financials, your initial application, and then they determine, hey, we're going to sell you a policy or write you coverage. But there are a handful of companies who say, look, we're not going to then employ a whole team of claims management people because it's very expensive and it's a whole nother skill unto itself. It's totally different than when someone applies for coverage. So we're going to use what's called a third-party administrator, and there's several of them out there. One of the other big ones is Sedgwick, which is notorious in the industry. We spoke about them a lot. It's a majority of the people who call us because a lot of people who are self-employed also, like companies who offer short-term disability but don't have an insurance company doing it, they don't administer their own claims either. So that's just another example. So in terms of Davies, I know that they acquired in 2001 disability management services. How have you seen that impact play out in the industry, if at all, any changes?
I personally haven't seen much. You know, DMS has been around for a long time. They've serviced a lot of policies. Off the top of my head, Monarch, Ohio National recently, AXA Equitable. So I've had a lot of, dealings with them and their people through the years, and I think this was a situation where, they maintained those same employees. They're just working for a new company now. So it's the same kind of, at least in my experience, process as was when it was just DMS.
Okay. So for the people who are watching this video is because they've received a letter, they're like, I have Ohio National or I have AXA Equitable, but I'm seeing this Davies. What's going on here? I didn't expect this at all. I bought because Ohio National had this reputation, or AXA Equitable, my agent told me, now I'm dealing with this Davies. So what should a person expect when dealing with Davies versus dealing with Ohio National or whoever their company is?
I think you need to expect more of the same. Here now, at least in Ohio National, say when they kept it in-house, the liabilities and, who's to blame and finger pointing falls right in the company. Now you're in a situation where Ohio National says, listen, we've outsourced, we've hired professionals to handle this side of it. So there can be a little bit of it's their fault, not our fault. You as an insured may be angry because you think Ohio National should be taking care of it, handling everything. If you have like some, problem with Davies, you still have to go through them. They're the ones that are going to make the call on it. So I think you need to expect more of the same frequency of reporting requirements, forms, medical records. DMS used to like to call and have like field interviews, maybe send someone out to see or have it over the telephone. So I think you need to see this as more of the same, with maybe the caveat now that there's been some type of change. Whatever the internal culture changes, we're obviously not privy to that, but are they going to say, well, maybe DMS, when it was, just under this DMS umbrella, they were on autopilot when it came to the reviews and punching claims. So they may be taking more of a fresh look at everything again to determine. It's kind of like when you get a new claims person. You may have had, same claims person for a while. All of a sudden a new claims person comes on. They want all kinds of new updates. They're reinvesting the claim. So I think you need to be cognizant of that may be happening.
I know Davies is doing Lloyd's of London work also, which are usually private policies that are sold, and those are considered like excess policies. They're above the normal coverage. We see them on athletes. We see them on people who have potentially more than $30,000 of monthly benefit coverage. DMS, as a third-party administrator, how do they where do you rate them when you were dealing with them? And the reason Davies bought them is because they wanted to bring in an established, I mean, they're called disability management services. They wanted to bring in an established third-party company to say, hey, we can manage these claims. Let's buy this company, and now let's add it to our portfolio of what we do. But what kind of work do you see out of the people from DMS compared to when we talk about, like a Hartford, a Unum, a Cigna, these big companies? Like when someone calls you, what do you think?
I think they're actually more professional. It's like you said, it was in their name, disability management services.
Right.
They're hired professionals to do this. I would find that it was easier to deal with, more professional, but I also think that could be a byproduct of the fact of the policies they're servicing. They're generally a lot of times older policies which had more favorable language for the insured, less restrictions. They were much smaller in length, so I think that has something to do with it. It's a little more, I wouldn't say straightforward, but to me, it just seems like those older legacy policies are more favorable than what you and I can buy today when it comes to language. But I've always found them to be really professional. If there was like a delay in getting something, you could work extensions with them and stuff like that. So you can expect the professionalism, but on the flip side of that, you need to also have that same level of presenting the case and professionalism of making sure all the information is documented, the claim forms are completed fully, and if there's requesting of financials, being able to provide them with everything they're going to need to do the review.
All right, so just to get a little bit more detailed here, if a potential client calls you and they go, Stephen, I want you to help me, what's your role in a file when Davies is on the other side of the claim?
Well, you can almost see it as Davies' role for whatever insurance company is the third party to administer it. Ours, we're the third party to represent your interest. In helping with the claim forms, making sure the doctors are completing it, review those medicals, that they're sufficient, that there's enough information, that you're complying with policy provisions such as appropriate care. Sometimes people on a claim for a long time, they don't go see the doctors anymore as much. So it's a way of making sure where your insurance company hired an outside company to streamline their process, you're hiring us to streamline and protect your process with them.
Steve, I definitely think that Davies is, like you said, they're one of the more professional companies, so they're definitely going to be, and really it's DMS, but we'll refer to them as Davies. They're on top of their claim, but at the same token, their people are experienced, which I find works both ways.
Yeah.
And so the claimants really need to, I think, take it to another level and be prepared, because if Davies is going to deny the claim, they're most likely going to go through the proper steps. You're not going to commonly see a bad faith type claim coming out of this company because they're aware of that and they don't have the high volume and the pressure to push claims. So I think you really have to be prepared, and that's when you said what your role is to say, look, we know every single thing that the Davies claim person is going to want, and if we're on your claim, we're going to make sure we do that. And if it's an application or if you've been denied, we know what they're going to want in an appeal. And we've had great success against DMS and what's now Davies as of 2021 in if we can get the information and you have the support from a treating doctor, the chances are much better than 50% that we're going to win your claim. And we've litigated against DMS many times as well, so we know every single which way of what they do. And that's what's important when a person is saying, hey, I want to learn about Davies, but I also want to get the right lawyer that can help me to pursue that type of claim. So if you're someone out there who has a claim in which Davies is your third-party administrator, feel free to reach out to myself, Stephen. No matter where you live in the country, we're always available to assist you, and we'll always provide you with an immediate free phone consultation.